So the first level of essay revision is looking at your overall essay structure. So this is what we were working on mostly a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the outline and about writing a strong thesis. If you're still at this level, that's okay, but you might find it might be helpful to actually come in and talk to me directly so that we can work through this together so that you can move on. But overall, essay structure is just your thesis and your outline. So the important things with this part of essay revision is that if you have a strong thesis to begin with, then it can be even more helpful to creating your outline. So your thesis can serve as a roadmap, and then if you have certain parts to it in a closed thesis, if you're including your reasons in your thesis, then it can be really easy to just crank out your outline. So some things to think about when you're writing your thesis is that your thesis might contain a claim of value or it might contain a claim of policy. So we've gone over those a little bit, where a claim of value is kind of like an opinion statement saying that something is better or worse or desirable or undesirable. And a claim of policy is a call for change. These might be combined into one sentence or they might be their own sentence. It just depends on what your thesis is, and all of those are great. But at least your thesis needs to have at least one claim of value or a claim of policy. And the reason for that is because when you're writing your body paragraphs, then you're going to be able to return to those things in the implication sections. So when you're writing your thesis, look for words like dangerous or most important or easiest or most helpful when you're trying to figure out if you have a claim of value, or must, should, ought, it is necessary for a claim of policy. Then you can connect those in your body paragraphs. Once you have your thesis, then it can be easier to create an outline. And we've looked at a couple different examples. The Oreo one is the one that most of you started out with. And then I've also created an essay template to help you actually write everything out if you still need additional support. So I just want to look at a couple examples of a thesis, which are on this document here. So these are a couple examples of different types of theses. So this first one, wisdom is the most desirable characteristic in a leader because leaders who demonstrate wisdom promote constructive relations between leaders and followers, create positive examples for citizens, and allow for an inclusive and connected community. This right here is an example of a closed thesis because it has the 3 reasons listed inside the thesis itself. So I'm going to go and make this double spaced so that we can write in here. So for example, we have the claim, which is that is the most desirable characteristic. This is our claim, and this is a claim of value because we're saying it's desirable or undesirable. Then we have our 3 reasons. One is that we have the because, which tells us that a transition is coming up. They promote constructive relations. This is reason number 1. Then we have create a positive example, reason number 2, and allow for an inclusive and connected community. This is number 3. So when this person is writing their outline or when they are writing their actual essay, they're going to use these types of keywords: constructive relations, positive example, an inclusive and connected community. They're going to be using those in their topic sentences. Then when they go to give their evidence, it'll have to support those things. Their analysis will have to support it, the evidence. And then the implication, we're going to come back to this idea of most desirable. So when you are in your implications and you're talking about constructive relations between leaders and followers, you have to connect back to your thesis and explain why those characteristics are desirable. Another example of a thesis is this one right here. And this one is another example of a different type of thesis. So this one is also a closed thesis, but it has a claim of policy embedded. So this one talks about why people So people need to be more informed about these issues and informed on these topics. So this person starts by saying the immigration debate at the national level has led to misconstrued information and false representation of immigrants, especially around how immigration affects the nation's economy, which has led to negative stereotypes of immigrants and excessive incarceration of immigrants. People should be informed on these issues in order to be more educated on the topics. So this last example has like 3 different characteristics or qualities. And this one right here has more of a cause and effect. So with the roadmap for this essay, I know that we're talking about immigration, and then I also know that we're going to be talking about false information, especially around these ideas of the economy, and then which leads to stereotypes, which is our second paragraph, which leads to excessive incarceration, which is my reason number 3. And then people need to be informed on these issues. That is my claim of policy. And so when this student goes to write their actual essay, they're going to be talking about the economy first and how the false, or this is a false representation, so connecting back there, and then how these false representations lead to stereotypes, and how these stereotypes lead to excessive incarceration. So there's going to be some transitions, and where this last example up here, talks more about how everything connects back to most desirable, this one is going to connect to the paragraph before it. So the structure is going to be a little bit different, but both of those are totally fine. And then finally, we have an example here of a closed thesis or an open thesis. So the last 2 were closed because we have the 1, 2, and 3 in each of them. 1, 2, 3. This one is an example of an open thesis because it doesn't have 3 reasons in it. So this thesis says that the lackadaisical attitude toward condom use can have lifelong ramifications on the parent and the child. So this is only talking about parents, 1, and children, 2. But it has an open thesis because it talks about lifelong ramifications without explicitly stating what these are. And then the thing that it goes back to is going to be the lackadaisical attitude toward condom use. So this will be eventually related to a claim of policy, such as use condoms. And then all of these lifelong ramifications might be different for the parent. So parent might have a reason 1, and parent might have a reason 2. And then we'll do the same for a child, where the child will then have a reason 1 and a reason 2, but all of these reasons are connected back to this idea of lifelong ramifications. So lifelong ramifications is kind of vague, and it's going to hold all of those things inside of it. So those are examples of each of the 3 types of theses. So once you have a solid thesis, then you can go back and choose some sort of template or outline that you want to work with. So I've created this essay template to hopefully make it easier to go about making your composing your first draft of your essay. And the way that this works is that it's a Word document, so you can type directly inside of it. If you have your thesis already, then you can just copy paste into your document, and then you can go from there. It works best when you use complete sentences. So for example, I could say one of the ramifications of lackadaisical condom use for parents is the cost of raising a child. So this is a topic sentence. I can give evidence, analysis, If I need to, I can add a second piece of evidence, and then I'd have to analyze that as well. And then synthesis is when you combine evidence to analyze what they mean together. And then finally, implications is where you connect back to your thesis. So for this template, we have the same structure for body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. And then when we go down finally to body paragraph 3, I just added a section where you can start a counterclaim with a rebuttal, and then your rebuttal is going to be the part of your paragraph that has your evidence and your analysis. Then you can do synthesis and implications again, and finally your conclusion. Here's some suggestions for what to think about for your conclusion as well. And as long as you're using complete sentences throughout this template, then you can almost copy and paste it into a separate Word doc without all the boxes and without all the extra commentary, and you'll have a first draft. So using this template can be really helpful if you are still struggling with trying to figure out how all of the pieces of your essay work together. You can also use this if you are struggling with paragraph structure where you have things kind of out of order. This essay template will help you make sure that you have all of the pieces in the right place as well. So the essay template, in addition to paragraph structure, will help you organize your overall thesis and your essay. So I really recommend using these tools. If you're still struggling, then you can come and see me during before school, after school, Thor, any of those times, and hopefully we'll get you on the right track where you feel comfortable moving on with your essay.